The first thing that hits you in the movie is a modern city with a lot of traffic. Although it is synthesized by AI, the sense of reality is still stronger. In this ever-changing city, there are a lot of success and inspirational stories being told every day. Our hero, Graver, lives a bachelor's life in a small apartment in the downtown area. The first thing he does when he wakes up every morning is to talk to the handmade figurines and let them play different roles and interpret the joys and sorrows of the little people. Only in this world, he is the king. Make a cup of simple bean flour, even if it is the solution to breakfast, alone bath listening to music, alone shopping, alone to come to the city center to work. In the hero's world, no one cares how he lives, just be happy with yourself. Graver's daily job is a mailman in the postal room of a newspaper. Usually it is to deliver the express mail of all the people up and down the company, so it can be said that it is a good housekeeper with good service. Graver has a crush on Dancy, a female editor in the editorial department, but because of the long-term intake of high-calorie food leading to obesity, coupled with the fact that he has little money, so that Graver has become very low self-esteem. As a result, Graver never dared to confess to the girl in his heart. Even if his colleagues create an opportunity for them to get close to each other in the elevator, he only dares to greedily sniff the body fragrance of the beautiful woman, but does not dare to say anything. The opportunity finally came. One day Graver realized that Dancy hadn't left work late at night, and it turned out that she was struggling because she couldn't write the article. This tourism promotion article is directly related to the company's performance and the next tourism development project. Unexpectedly this time, Graver bowled. He has never written a copy of his own initiative to take up the role of copywriter savior. This makes the beauty bright. With love acting as a catalyst, Graver makes coffee, plays guitar, does the fat dance he specializes in, and stimulates his creative juices with all sorts of antinomies. Graver, perhaps the originator of today's AI synthesized articles, downloaded a number of articles from the internet, pieced them together, and actually did come up with a very interesting travelogue. As soon as the article came out, it was immediately appreciated by Dancy, who thought it had a lot of unique artistic inspiration and was very forward-looking, which was very instructive for the future development of the company. At this point, we can notice that Dancy's office also has a lot of art dolls, which is very similar to Graver. This implies that deep down, they are actually the same kind of people. Dancy felt that a talent like that couldn't suffer burial in the mailroom. So Graver was sent to Bermuda to follow up on a story, and so began our 30 degrees north adventure. Expecting a grand welcome, the man who came to meet him was a slacker. The man led Graver to the front of a simply assembled yacht, saying that it was simple to operate and you could play with it any way you liked. Just like that, never driven a yacht, Graver just drank a Coke, driving a yacht in the sea Mercedes-Benz. It's too boring to drift alone on the sea. He then took out a robot DIY assembly manual and read it to pass the time. Perhaps because the navigation was designed to be too simple or because the chip was not upgraded, Graver lost signal after a while of driving, and obese people are the most drowsy. When Graver opened his eyes, in front of him were already shocking waves. But his reaction is quite fast, the first time to wear a full set of life-saving equipment. Soon, the devil's eye of the Bermuda Triangle appeared and swept Graver into an unknown time and space. When he woke up, he realized he had floated to an island but couldn't move his body. It turned out that he was tied up by a group of villains. There were also bridge works built over his body. Graver was stunned and fought his way up. The little people yanked down Graver's stretchy jeans with ropes and launched a sneak attack with javelins. So the giant Graver fell, but the little man under his butt was crushed into a sandwich meatloaf. What bad luck! Graver was transported to Lilliput by a giant villain-powered flatbed truck. It's a city of 19th century architecture, and the citizens crowd around the behemoth on the city's main street from every angle. But Lilliputian flatbed trucks are primed with modern design concepts, and can also prop up Graver with a powered arm. The king seems to take little interest in him and imprisons him inside a cave. Here he befriended the imprisoned Horatio. The next day, Graver was sent by General Edward to plow the land. The people of Lilliput are exceptionally good at manufacturing, specializing in a mechanical plowing system that squeezes the giant's physical strength. Graver's entire body was covered with pulleys, with every inch of muscle movement providing power. And General Edward sat firmly at the control center manipulating the entire system, and at that moment an enemy country comes and creates a fire and kidnaps the princess. Because of the lack of a modern firefighting system, the king is about to be burned to death. Graver appeared just in time to destroy the enemy's plan and rescued the princess. He also saves the king and his subjects from the fire by using his urine. From then on, he became famous for peeing and was instantly embraced by the people of the city. The statue of Gravisa has become the city's brand name building for the citizens to visit and admire. At grand royal banquets, Gravisa became the center of attention, enjoying the food and bragging about his fictional past, making himself out to be the Superman who saved the universe. Thus, Graver was made a great general, and Edwards was demoted to the rank of lieutenant general. From then on, breakfast was cooked in a special machine, and the fine grain-soaked soy milk looked and tasted great. The home is no longer decorated with villainous hand puppets, but with living villains. First-line sea-view houses, super-luxurious villas, and reality TV shows, these dreamy lives have finally become reality. The Grand Opera House is also filled with Graver's romances and glories. At the same time, Graver sets up a love affair between Horatio and the princess, and before that the princess was Edward's fiancée. Edward's men inadvertently found the wreckage of Graver's yacht. Also found were bottles of Coke, a cell phone, and the robot DIY manual. At this point Edward seems thoughtful. It turned out that at this time, the jealous Edward had already secretly colluded with the enemy. He dismantled the castle's defenses, allowing the enemy to launch a successful attack on the kingdom. It was time for the hero, Greyfriar, to serve his country. He took off his coat to reveal a thick, fat body. Bravely, he lunged into the sea. The enemy's gunships fired in unison and looked terrifying. However, hitting Graver's thick fat was like a mosquito nailing it, and without looking closely you would think you had dermatitis. Graver quickly bounced off all the cannonballs by relying on his thick fat. Graver then lifted the enemy ship at sea with the ease of a child dragging a remote control toy. And so a rash-covered Graver was victorious once again. And so Gulliver continues to enjoy the highs of life. Lilliputian has designed a villain version of a confrontation game machine for Gulliver. It required his own operation and the joint battle of the little people, and it looked like a lot of fun. They also provided villain massage services, villain haircut services, and the days were like heaven. Graver's modest musical talents continued to be on display as well. There was also a musical show on stage arranged just for him alone. The whole city looks more modern with Graver's planning. There were light shows and billboards plastered in the shape of Graver everywhere. Commercial life began to flourish as well, and people seemed to be quickly evolving into the 20th century. However, the good times didn't last long, and this time Edelweiss completely defected to the Empire. And used that droid DIY manual to build a real droid that challenged the peace of Graver and the city. Edward sat in the core control room and operated the droid, his every movement turning into a droid's movement, like a modern-day somatosensory VR game. Before long, the robot started to grow larger like a transformer, and all sorts of awesome fighting moves were on display, hanging Graver with ease. Foreign armies take the opportunity to invade, the Lilliputian nation falls, and Graves is exiled to the island of death in Bermuda. A giant hand quickly captures Graves, and it turns out that this is the legendary land of the giants. This time it was Graver's turn to become a cartoon villain. Caught by a girl to play with. Graves also found the legendary pilot who disappeared in the Bermuda Triangle. It turns out that he was also captured by the giant nation and chose to go on a hunger strike because he was humiliated. He is now a skeleton. Concentrating his wits, Graver puts on the dead pilot's parachute bag and does an aerial bungee jump. He jumped through the girl's window, towards the sea. The parachute also opens at this point. Graver returns to Lilliput again and realizes that Dancy is also being held captive. It turns out that Dancy couldn't reach him, so she was worried about coming to him. As a result, he also became a captive. This also moved Graver deeply. Inspired by Dancy and fueled by love, Graver's hormones soar and he decides to revitalize his manhood. He rescues the king and princess and makes a date to fight a transformer robot controlled by Edward. At this time, the fighting robot has apparently been replaced and upgraded, and on top of the original fighting controls, an electric shock function has been added, which makes Graver take continuous beatings. The key time or Horatio helped. He lurked into the robot's control compartment, unplugged the key wiring, resulting in the robot cannot continue to discharge. Graver uses his fat body to pounce on the robot again, and this time he succeeds and wins the woman he loves. Once again, Graver showed a wonderful fat man dance in the little people's country. The whole country also followed the dance. The music makes the little people full of peace. Farewell to the little people, back to the modern city, Graver, or back to the familiar workplace, office buildings. However, at this time he is full of energy, full of confidence, obviously become a workplace professionals. The related travelogues also sold like hotcakes and gained considerable sales and performance for the company. In this way, love and career both harvest, Graver became a winner in life. This story seems to be telling us, in the modern workplace full of competition, the whole society is also full of impatience. Busy chasing fame and fortune tends to live a hard life, and some even become pathetic people like Edward who do not stop at anything. Sometimes keep a childish heart, keep the self living, but better. To put it another way, everyone is an independent self, do not need to compare anything with others, live for myself, do what I'm good at, write my own good story, you are the winner of life. Thanks for watching and stay tuned to whole recaps for more great movies.